Sarah Thompson was a waitress at the small diner called Blue Bell Café, a cozy spot just off the main street. Morning light streamed through the windows as she wiped down the tables, her mind juggling thoughts of overdue bills and an empty fridge at home. Despite her financial struggles, Sarah held onto a deep-seated belief in kindness. Her late mother always told her, "You can't help everyone, but you can always help someone." It was a chilly morning in early winter. As Sarah prepared for the shift, she noticed a man sitting quietly outside the Blue Bell Café. He sat hunched, bundled in layers of clothing patched in many places. The sight tugged at Sarah's heartstrings. She had seen him before, always gazing longingly through the windows but never stepping inside. His name was Thomas Grant, and most days, he was as much a fixture outside the café as the morning frost on the windows. Between taking orders and refilling coffee mugs, Sarah's eyes kept drifting towards Thomas. The café was warm and filled with the comforting aroma of pancakes and bacon. Outside, the wind blew relentlessly against Thomas's huddled form. A twinge of conscience nudged Sarah. She knew that offering help was not always about having enough to spare, but rather about sharing what you have with those who have less. As the breakfast rush subsided and the afternoon approached, Sarah found a spare moment. She stepped outside, her breath visible in the cold air, and approached Thomas. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said, her voice soft and genuine. "Why don't you come inside for something warm?" "It's on me." Thomas hesitated, surprise evident in his tired eyes. "I can't let you do that," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to be a bother." "Nonsense," Sarah insisted. "We've got plenty of coffee and some warm soup. Please come in." The doorbell jingled as they stepped back into the Blue Bell Café. Sarah led Thomas to a corner booth, away from the drafty windows. She knew she'd be even tighter on cash this month, but the thought did not deter her. As Thomas sipped a steaming mug of coffee and started on the soup, his hands shook slightly, not from the cold anymore, but perhaps from disbelief or gratitude. Watching him, Sarah felt warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the heater humming nearby. "Thank you," Thomas said after a while, looking up with clear eyes. "Most people just pass by without a glance. This is kind of you." Sarah smiled, brushing away his thanks with a wave. "It's the least I can do. Everyone deserves a warm meal." As the afternoon shadows grew longer, Sarah and Thomas talked in the quiet comfort of the Blue Bell Café. She learned little snippets about his life before things turned hard. He used to work as a mechanic, but after the shop closed, he struggled to find steady work. Without family nearby and the rent due, things spiraled. Listening to his story, Sarah felt an ache, the familiar hum of life's unpredictability. Yet, underlying it all was Thomas's dignity and resilience, a quiet determination to hold on for better days. The day edged toward evening. More customers trickled in, and Sarah returned to her duties, replenishing coffee cups and taking orders. When she glanced again at the booth, Thomas was gone, a simple thank you scribbled on a napkin. Days passed. Sarah's life continued in its predictable routine: long shifts at the cafe, evenings spent penny pinching and poring over bills, and yet her thoughts frequently returned to Thomas. She hoped he was safe and found warmth somewhere else. It was mid-morning several days later when the unexpected happened. Blue Bell Café hummed with its usual life. Sarah was behind the counter when a man entered, not someone she recognized. His suit was sharp, and his demeanor spoke of familiarity with success. With a polite nod, he introduced himself as James Parker. "Are you Sarah Thompson?" he asked, his voice smooth but curious. "Yes, that's me," she replied, puzzled at his attention. "I wanted to thank you personally, on behalf of someone I know," James said, pulling out a chair. He spoke warmly of Thomas Grant and shared news that stirred Sarah's heart. Thomas had found shelter for the night after she offered him a meal, leading him eventually to a local resource center that aided him back to stability. Thomas had reached out to James, his one-time employer who ran a successful chain of garages, giving Thomas another chance at work and perhaps a second chance at life. Sarah listened, wide-eyed and touched by the ripples of a single act of kindness. "I just offered him some soup," she said, her voice a mixture of humility and awe. James smiled. "And sometimes that's all it takes. Your kindness was the light he needed." As James left, promising to stay in touch, Sarah stood there, surrounded by the familiar clatter of cups and bustling orders. For a brief moment, everything seemed to stand still. Her generosity, a small bright spot in her everyday struggles, had made an impact greater than she ever imagined. It filled her heart with a sense of fulfillment that no paycheck could measure. In the days that followed, life was not much easier with bills still looming and long hours at the Blue Bell Café. Yet Sarah's spirit soared higher, a testament to a simple truth: kindness, however small, can change the direction of lives in powerful and unexpected ways. The bonds of humanity, once shared, became anchors against life's uncertainties, reminding her that she was not alone in her journey. As James Parker stepped out of the Blue Bell Café, Sarah Thompson remained rooted in place, her heart swelling with a profound sense of fulfillment. The idea that her simple gesture had been a catalyst in turning Thomas Grant's life around gave her an unexpected buoyancy. It was moments like this that reminded Sarah of her mother's wisdom, how even small acts of kindness could echo far beyond their original intentions. The day carried on, and Sarah returned to the rhythm of work. The cafe was bustling with its usual crowd, loyal customers who had seen Sarah there day in and day out. Some noticed a change in her, a newfound glow or lightness that was hard to pin down but evident in the way she moved, the way she greeted them. The smiles came easier now. The worries about bills and money, while still present, seemed less daunting. Later in the day, as the sun began to dip behind the buildings, a familiar figure walked through the door. Sarah paused midway through filling a coffee cup as Thomas Grant entered, a timid smile playing on his lips. He was dressed in a clean, albeit well-worn, shirt and jeans. His posture was more confident, and though the lines of hardship were still visible on his face, there was a brightness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Hello," Sarah Thomas greeted her warmly as he approached the counter. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Sarah beamed, setting the coffee pot down. "Not at all. It's good to see you. How have you been?" "Better. Thanks to you," Thomas replied, sincerity coloring his voice. "After our last talk, things started to turn around, and I even got a call from James. He's helping me get back on my feet with a job at one of his garages. I couldn't have done it without you." Sarah felt a flood of happiness wash over her, and nodded in acknowledgement, her emotions tangled with pride and relief. "I'm so glad to hear that. You deserve it." As they spoke, Marion Lee, a regular at the cafe who sat by the window every morning, caught snippets of their conversation. A retired school teacher, Marion was known for her tendency to involve herself in the lives of those around her, always with good intentions. Her curiosity piqued. She waved Sarah over once Thomas had taken a seat. "I couldn't help but overhear," dear Marion said kindly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "What a wonderful thing you did for that young man." Sarah blushed slightly, brushing off the praise with a shrug. "I didn't do much, just some soup and coffee." "Kindness is never just anything. It's sometimes all the world needs," Marion responded thoughtfully. Then she leaned in conspiratorially, her voice dropping slightly. "And if you ever need help yourself, just ask. You're a good soul, Sarah. People see that." Marion's words, simple yet profound, lingered with Sarah through the rest of her shift. As she cleaned up and chatted with the regulars, her thoughts circled back to the idea of community, how their small acts, intertwining, created a stronger whole. As evening neared, James Parker returned, this time with a proposition that was hard to believe. He had been inspired not only by Sarah's kindness but also by the sense of community he witnessed at the Blue Bell Café. "I'm looking to expand the garages, maybe start an apprenticeship scheme," James explained. "Like a partnership with the community, I was hoping the cafe could become a hub for events, help spread the word." Sarah's eyebrows raised in surprise. "The cafe? Really?" "Why not?" James replied with a smile. "It's already a hub in so many ways. With your involvement and the cafe's atmosphere, it could really work." The proposal was more than Sarah had ever dreamed. It hinted at brighter days, possibly increasing the cafe's patronage, and consequently, her pay. Above all, it opened a door to be part of something bigger than she'd ever imagined, helping others while securing her own future. As the conversation ebbed, wrapping up with hopeful handshakes and promises of further discussions, Sarah felt a whisper of hope take root in her heart. The possibility for financial improvement danced at the edge of her thoughts, teasing with the promise of easing the burden she had carried for so long. When she clocked out later that evening, the air was crisp, filled with the scent of winter. Her stroll home was illuminated by street lamps casting pools of golden light on the sidewalk, echoes of teenage laughter in the distance. The weight that had clung to her shoulders seemed lighter now, the future not as daunting. In the quiet of her little apartment, Sarah settled into her favorite worn-out chair and reflected on the events of the day, feeling the fatigue of a long shift beginning to cocoon her body. Yet, overshadowing any tiredness was an undeniable excitement, a vision of new opportunities that not only included her but also brought along those she had come to cherish. The Blue Bell Café, the place where she had poured so much of herself, was now more than just a workplace. It was a bridge to possibilities, a living testament to the ripple effects of kindness and community. With thoughts full of anticipation for what might come next, Sarah fell into a peaceful sleep, her dreams filled with warmth and hope. As the world went on outside her window, the seeds of her kindness continued to grow in unexpected, beautiful ways, cultivating a world where small acts opened doors and linked lives, creating a brighter tomorrow for everyone involved. In the quiet of her apartment, Sarah Thompson awoke with the soft light of morning streaming through her curtains. The warmth of her dreams lingered with her, a gentle reminder of the possibilities that lay ahead. She stretched and prepared for another day at the Blue Bell Café, her heart beating with a strange mix of excitement and hope. Sliding her feet into a pair of worn sneakers, Sarah recalled the conversation she'd had with James Parker the day before. His proposal had sparked an idea that perhaps, just perhaps, things could get better not just for her, but for the entire community that surrounded her life at the cafe. As the sun edged higher in the sky, Sarah made her way to the cafe. The streets were coming to life, the air filled with the familiar sounds of chatter and laughter from passers-by. Stepping through the door of the Blue Bell Café, she was greeted by the soothing hum of morning activities, a comforting embrace of normalcy amid the change swirling around her. With the breakfast rush over, Sarah found herself alone with her thoughts by the coffee machine. Her mind drifted to Thomas Grant, whose life had been touched by their simple connection. It was amazing, Sarah mused, how small acts of kindness could lead to ripples of change. She hoped, beyond hope, that such ripples could continue to flow through her world. As she returned to work, another familiar face from the community stepped through the door. Hannah Reed, the local librarian who regularly stopped by for her mid-morning coffee. Hannah was known for her warm smile and gentle nature, often spending hours at the counter talking to Sarah about books and life. "Morning," Hannah said, hanging her scarf over a chair before easing into her usual seat. "The best thing about winter is your coffee. Can't survive without it." Sarah smiled, preparing Hannah's usual latte. "Here you go, Hannah. This will keep the chill away." As she set the cup down before Hannah, the librarian gave Sarah a curious look. "I couldn't help but overhear a bit about your talk with James the other day. Sounds like an exciting opportunity." Sarah nodded, her enthusiasm bubbling up. "It is, isn't it? The idea of expanding and connecting more with the community, it's a chance for everyone to get involved." Hannah took a sip of her latte, appreciation reflected in her eyes. "It's a wonderful vision, Sarah. Your kindness has always been a light. I think it's why people keep coming back here. They feel it." The comment warmed Sarah's heart, a humble reminder of how deeply her interactions over the years had rooted her here. She smiled, gratitude evident in her expression. "Thank you, Hannah. That means a lot." As Hannah left, another ripple began to take shape. Word of James's vision for the community and the cafe spread quickly. Conversations hinted at excitement, plans, and possibilities that energized the patrons. What started as a simple proposition was growing into a shared hope. The Blue Bell Café became a gathering spot as never before, fostering a sense of unity. Later that afternoon, as the day turned towards evening, James returned, bringing with him a sense of calm confidence and concluded discussions. He sat with Sarah to share what had transpired. "We're going forward with the plan," he said, "and to make it official, I've brought along something for you." He reached into his suit pocket, pulling out an envelope, which he handed to a puzzled yet intrigued Sarah. As she opened it, her heart jumped. Inside was a check written in her name, the amount reading $5,000. The sum was far more than she could have anticipated, directly linked to the cafe's partnership and her undeniable role in helping Thomas. Sarah looked from the check to James, her voice struggling to form coherent words. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "This is so much. The impact you've had has set this all in motion," James explained, genuine appreciation in his eyes. "Your kindness turned into something that benefits the whole community." Gratitude and disbelief washed over Sarah. She had never been the one to receive such generous rewards. This reward had not only eased her financial burden but opened doors for new possibilities. As the sun began to set, casting an amber glow through the cafe windows, Sarah knew that the road ahead, though uncertain, shimmered with promise. The Blue Bell Café had become more than just a workplace, it was now the heart of a thriving community effort. Her simple gesture of kindness had sparked a transformation that would continue creating ripples long into the future, benefiting everyone around her. The following days were filled with planning and joyful anticipation. Sarah became deeply involved in the community events planned at the cafe, as did Thomas, who had been warmly welcomed into the fold, eager to contribute to the new apprenticeship program James was spearheading. With her financial worries beginning to fade in the rearview mirror, Sarah found herself more engaged and fulfilled than she had ever thought possible. She watched as strangers became friends and friendships blossomed into alliances. Her own transformation was reflected in the world around her. The smallest step she had taken had made the biggest difference. And so, the Blue Bell Café stood with its doors wide open, a manifestation of what kindness and community could truly achieve when combined. Sarah Thompson's act of giving a warm meal on a cold day had created more than just a ripple. It had built bridges between souls, built a future from the present's kindness, showing everyone that the biggest rewards come not just from money or recognition, but from the heart, where the warmth of giving would forever remain. The Blue Bell Café was aglow with the amber light of the setting sun, casting a warm hue over the wooden floors and buzzing patrons. Sarah Thompson stood behind the counter, a gentle smile playing on her lips as she arranged a fresh batch of muffins. Her heart felt lighter than it had in years, bolstered by the knowledge that her small act of kindness had blossomed into something profound. As the doors opened and closed with each newcomer, familiar faces filled the room with laughter and conversation. The cafe had become a nucleus of community and collaboration, with the once solitary tables now rearranged to accommodate burgeoning friendships and shared projects. It was a sight that brought Sarah an immense sense of fulfillment. Thomas Grant, now comfortably settling into his new role thanks to James Parker's generosity, was a regular at the cafe. His presence was a reminder of how far they'd come together. Today, as he sat sharing stories and laughter with a group of new apprentices, Sarah couldn't help but notice the peace on his face, absent of the worry lines that had marked his early visits. Marian Lee, the retired schoolteacher whose curious spirit kept her involved in all the cafe happenings, waved Sarah over. "You've really created something special here," she said, a twinkle in her eye. "It's like you can feel the warmth and hope emanating right from the walls." Touched by her words, Sarah nodded. The journey from a simple act of kindness to building a thriving community felt surreal but deeply rewarding. "I think we all had a hand in it," Sarah said humbly, gesturing towards the buzzing room. "I've just been lucky to be part of it." James Parker, who had played such an instrumental role alongside Sarah, arrived to join them at the counter. His expression was one of quiet satisfaction. "The cafe has really transformed into what we imagined," he remarked, his gaze sweeping over the room filled with engaged, hopeful faces. "I couldn't have done it without you, Sarah." Her cheeks flushed with gratitude and a touch of embarrassment. "It's been a team effort," she insisted, smiling at James, grateful beyond words for his friendship and support. As the evening rolled in, painting the sky with deep hues of orange and pink, the cafe slowly transitioned into its night ambience. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with that of homemade pastries, making the cafe a comforting haven for all who stepped inside. Sarah took a moment to herself, stepping outside into the crisp evening air to admire the twinkling lights strung along the cafe's awning. They glowed like tiny beacons of hope against the darkening sky. She breathed in deeply, feeling content and wrapped in a sense of belonging. Reflecting on the moment when she offered Thomas a warm meal, she marveled at how such a seemingly small gesture had rippled outwards to create these lasting connections. The cafe was full of stories of redemption, of new beginnings, and of lives intertwined through the simple power of kindness. It was a beautiful reminder that everyone, given a chance, plays a part in shaping their community. Sarah's contemplation was interrupted by the soft click of the door opening, followed by the gentle voice of Hannah Reed, the librarian. "Mind if I join you for a moment to savor this peaceful evening?" "Not at all," Sarah replied warmly, grateful for the company. Hannah stood beside Sarah, both of them gazing at the lively interior visible through the glass. "You know, Sarah, I've always loved how this cafe feels like a second home. People find comfort here because you've created an atmosphere of kindness and acceptance." Her words filled Sarah with a sense of accomplishment, renewing her resolve to nurture this growing community. It wasn't just about providing meals and drinks, it was about fostering a space where everyone felt valued and heard. As they stood there, a soft hum of conversation floated through the door, mingling with the whispered rustle of the leaves dancing in the evening breeze. The camaraderie and laughter from within were a tangible testament to what had been built, not just a successful partnership with James Parker's initiative, but a living, breathing community. "I think it's the people who make this place feel special," Sarah mused aloud, her gaze softening. "We all bring something unique to the table." Hannah nodded in agreement. "And your spirit of generosity set it all in motion." The evening wore on, and soon the cafe began winding down, the effervescent chatter trickling into a mellow hum. Sarah returned inside, her heart full, joining Marian, Thomas, and Hannah once more. Together, they helped tidy up, their efforts interspersed with shared laughter and stories of the day. As Marian gathered her things to leave, she made a point of looking Sarah in the eye. "Remember, if you ever need anything, we're all here to help. After all, that's what community is all about, isn't it?" Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I know, thank you, and the same goes for all of you." As she locked up the cafe that night, Sarah's thoughts circled back to the simple truth she had always known deep down. Acts of kindness, no matter how small, are never wasted. They ripple outwards, connecting lives, providing hope, and creating futures that once seemed out of reach. With those thoughts wrapped warmly around her, Sarah headed home, looking forward to what tomorrow might bring. Her spirit was buoyed by the knowledge that she was part of something larger than herself, a community rooted in kindness, thriving in the warmth of shared stories, and united by the understanding that they were all, in some small way, architects of change. The Blue Bell Café stood as a testament to that enduring truth. Lit warmly against the night, beacons of hope and connection, echoes of generosity, a promise of what can be achieved when hearts open and hands reach out to one another. And as Sarah settled into bed, she knew the dreams awaiting her would be bright ones, filled with the laughter and warmth of all those who had become a part of her world, a world she had helped to grow, one kind act at a time.